I just finished my first year of reading and this is everything I read. So before I get everything off my bookshelves, because everything I have not read that much. I started reading in July and it is now December, obviously. And I read 16 books, which is, for a first-time reader in 6 months, I think that's pretty good. Especially where I've had like a slump for a month and getting stuck on a book for a month. So the first book I read this year was Call Me By Your Name. And this, funnily enough, I know this, although it's my first year of reading, it was the 4th time I read this book. I read it the first time in lockdown and I loved it, and then I read it again in lockdown, then again when I was in college, and then this time. And then I never read the second book. Spoiler ahead, the next book on my list is the second book. But I love this book, love the film, cry every time. It is an amazing book. It's upset me because both my best mate and my sister are big readers, and I both recommended this book to them, and they both, well, my best mate DNF'd it, but she's in a bit of a slump at the moment for the past year. And then my sister finished it and didn't like it, but they read like Frida McFadden and Colleen Hoover, so it's a very different book. But I love it. It is chill, Italian countryside, gay romance. What else isn't there to love? Last month I went to Paris for the day. I literally got there at 9 AM and got home. I left at 9 PM. I was there for 12 hours in Paris. But yeah, I literally woke up at 2 AM and didn't get home till 2 AM. It was a long day and I worked the next day. Anyway, a little tangent, but I picked up I'm awful at telling stories. I went to Paris because I wanted to go to Shakespeare and Company. If you don't know about it, it's a bookshop in Paris, and they stamped the book to show you bought it from there. And I bought a few books. So I bought Call Me By Your Name on hardback, because I wanted to buy it anyway, but I was like, I'll buy it there. And then you get a cool little stamp to show you bought it from there. Call Me By Your Name. Oh, my ratings. Call Me By Your Name, I did give 5 stars. And I think I've given it 5 stars every time I've read it. Great book. Second book on my list, as I've already told you, was Find Me, also by Andre Ackerman. I think it's Ackerman. It's the second book of the series, and although I read it Call Me By Your Name 3 times before, I never read the second one because all online it said don't read it. It ruins the first book for you, and don't read it because it's gonna. So I never read it because I didn't want it to dampen how much I enjoyed the first one. But I honestly loved this book. Don't know about loved, but I did really enjoy it. It's only, what, 250 pages? It's very good. I liked it. It carries on the story of Elio and Oliver, and it has about his dad in there. I thought it was a nice little closing book. And I do kind of want to read it again, now looking back at it. But then you Call Me By Your Name again for the 5th time. This book, I did only give this 3 stars. I think that was only because there wasn't as much Elio and Oliver in it. There was still a good amount. It was mainly the dad, which I liked. But at the time, I think I was only really craving gay romance. But still a good book. I've enjoyed it. My ratings. Right, brief intermission. My Goodreads ratings are: 1 star was either I hated it, didn't finish it. 2 stars was I finished it, but I wouldn't read it again. 3 stars is I read it, I got through it, but maybe I'd read it again considering the mood. 4 star is I liked it and I probably would read it again. And then 5 stars is amazing, I loved it. And then 6 stars is changed my life book. This is 3 stars, may read it again, maybe not. But no, I liked it, good book. Next book on my list is The Gentleman from Peru by Andre Ackerman. Again, Ackerman, probably should have checked. And this book is actually signed. Great Waterstones find. It was really short. It was, because look at the pages as well. There wasn't much to it. 170 pages. I don't know if you'd consider a novella 170 pages, especially how small the writing is, but it was a nice book. I'd probably read it in the summer. It is this group of friends, they're on a boat and they get stranded on a resort island. I read this months ago, I'm trying to remember. And then they meet a gentleman from Peru, and then he's cool. It's kind of like he's got powers, but not in a fantasy way. In like an old wise man way. If you know what I mean. But I like this book. I'm going to say I liked all of them. I did only give this one 2 stars though. Although I think it might be a 3 stars. I feel bad if I give it 2 stars. Means I probably wouldn't read again. But I feel like in between a big series, it would be a nice little break. So I think there is a chance I'd read it again, but I think I didn't really just click with the characters because as there were 2 main characters, focused on 2 of them, so there was a lot of names, and for the 3rd book that I was reading, it was quite a lot to wrap my head around, even though it was only 170 pages. The next book on my reading, my 4th one, was Song of Achilles, and now I have no words. Honestly, I'm a big fan of Greek mythology. I've got Greek mythology tattoos. Madeline Miller. It's a great book. It's the story of Achilles and Patroclus, their love, another gay romance, and it was a good book to get me, because although I was very into Greek mythology, I'd never read, obviously I just started reading, so it was a good start to get me into it, and it was my first. I was quite intimidated. It was, even though it was 350 pages, which is an average book length, but when I picked it up, Call Me By Your Name and Find Me are only like 250, and then Gentleman of Peru was 170. But amazing book, highly recommend. I was trying to get my sister to read it, but she won't listen to me. Especially after how much she didn't like Call Me By Your Name, sadly. But this one, obviously 5 stars, and I'd read it again. Honestly love it. I'm looking at getting a Achilles tattoo. It was great. I struggled with quite a lot of the names, but learning new people because it's a war, so there's a lot of people, but by the end I wrapped my head around it. Great book, highly recommend. I'm currently filming this on Christmas Day. It is the evening. What time is it? It is 10 o'clock, so everyone's downstairs watching Gavin and Stacey, but my amazing sister got me this. It is the beautiful Folio Society Song of Achilles. If you don't know Folio Society, basically they do cloth bound versions of books, and they are very gorgeous and very expensive, but very good. And then they have prints in it, if I can find some. That's his mum, and I find it crazy because that's literally how I imagined her, so Madeline Miller must have done a good job at describing her. But no, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I'm not a fan of hardbacks. I don't buy hardback books, but this is just, I had to. I didn't buy it, but I really wanted it. I begged my sister. The next book I read was Psyche and Eros by Luna McNamara, maybe, I think. And it is another Greek mythology retelling of Psyche and Eros. Eros is Cupid. Cupid is his Roman name. Eros is his Greek name. And it is a great book. I honestly loved it. Basically, Aphrodite's jealous of Psyche, and Eros got them arrows to make whoever gets pricked by it to fall in love with the first person they see. But Aphrodite cursed it, so first person she'd see she'd fall in love with, but it would end badly. But then Eros accidentally got himself when he was sheathing the arrow. And then he obviously saw her, and then he kidnapped her and then locked her in his house with all the lights off and only visited her at night time. Sounds kind of weird, but it's Greek mythology. That's what it's like. But yeah, and then eventually, this is what this is. Eros and Psyche. But yeah, great book. I loved it. Would read it again. I gave it a 4 star, and I'd back that. Yeah, good. The next book I read this year, my 6th book, I was flying at this point, was Ariadne. Oh, I proper broke the spine of this one. That's one thing about books. My sister just tells me to buy Kindle, but I love the trophy. I break the spine. By the end of the book, it is destroyed. And this one I took on like picnics and stuff because I was reading it in summer. And this was a good book. It was a lot different to, it was very Greek mythology rather than Greek romance, even though it was Greek romance. If you know what I mean, like it was a more original story. If you get what I mean, I don't know how to explain. By Jennifer Saint. And yeah, I liked it. This book, I think I was reading it for a month. it did put me in kind of a slump. It was 400 pages. I just kind of, it was kind of repetitive. Basically, I don't know how much I can say without spoiling, but try my best. Basically, every year, basically she lives on the island and her brother is the Minotaur. And every year, or every few years or whatever, they get kids from other islands to fight it. And she falls in love with one, lets him escape, but then he leaves her on an island. And then she falls in love with Dionysus, the goddess of wine. And then, yeah, probably going to be spoilers. And then Sister ends up going to live with the guy original that she fell in love with. And it was just kind of messy. But I understand. It was good for the story it was telling. Like, writing was great. I just think the story I wasn't completely with, if you get what I mean. I gave this one a 3-star, which, looking back, I don't know if I still would have given it a 3-star. Considering I gave other books that I enjoyed more at 3 stars. That's why I struggle with Goodreads 5 stars, because it could be like a high 5 stars, low 5 stars, so on and so forth. But I still recommend it as a Greek mythology story retelling. Yeah. Next book on my list, book number 7, was Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. Yeah, great book. It was a good book. It was, I think I gave this one a 3-star. Mainly, I think it was quite repetitive, I found. And I did get lost with some of the names, and it probably was a lot of my fault. But for the retelling of the story of Medusa, I'd highly recommend this because it gives the whole story of it. And like backup people and then who it affects and so on and so forth. I've got a Perseus and Medusa tattoo here. Great book. I would tell you what it's about, but most people know the story of Medusa. However, they probably don't know it how they should know it. So I'd highly recommend reading it. And yeah, the next book on my reading list, book number 8, was Electra by Jennifer Saint again, also the author of Ariadne. And oh my god, I destroyed this one and all. Sitting here trying to remember what happened. Basically with this one I didn't really enjoy. I liked it. I liked the story it was telling. It told the story of Cassandra, which I really was interested in looking into, because obviously Taylor Swift released a song called Cassandra. And Greek mythology. Taylor Swift, Greek mythology, my 2 favourite things. And it also had 3 points of view, which I did quite enjoy the switch up, because you moved around. It was Clytemnestra, the wife of Agamemnon, and then Electra was the daughter, and then there was Cassandra, which I liked. I liked that part, but however, at this point I'd already read 2-3 books on the Troy Battle of, which I know is a big part of Greek mythology, but I was just kind of getting burnt out with the Battle of Troy. I was like, I've read it in 6 different perspectives. And yeah, I found the whole bloodline, the cursed bloodline, I was well confused. I don't know if I missed a bit in the beginning, but they started talking and I was like, I don't know what you're on about. But yeah, a low 2-star. But I think it was more on me rather than Jenny Saint. Because I do also have Atlanta that I'm yet to read, which I do want to, because Atlanta was mentioned in either this, I think it was Ariadne, I'm pretty sure, and she kind of intrigued me, so I do want to read that. But I was trying to distance myself from Troy a little bit. But yeah, 2-star. Read it if you want, but don't read about 50 Troy books before. The next book I read, book number 9, was Normal People by Sally Rooney. Great book. Yeah, it's quite sad. It's a teenage love and you kind of grow up with them a little bit, not too much. Yeah, I'd say grow up with them. And I did really enjoy it. It wasn't very long, 270 odd pages. And yeah, I did like how quickly I got into it. Like, I was all clicked because first chapter or 2 they were already having sex. But it was a good book. I did kind of, she went to, where was it? It was like Switzerland and I felt like I didn't really enjoy that bit. I felt it was just kind of unnecessary. But that was me. Honestly, I was still new to reading. Any of my opinions, do not judge, because I don't know. Feel free to comment your ideas below if you have any opinions on what I'm saying. Be nice though. But no, I really liked it. It was my first straight romance. But no, I did like her writing style, although she doesn't use quotation marks, but a lot of people say. But I didn't mind it. I managed to wrap my head around it. I do like the chapters would start like 4 months, 5 months. So I felt you could to where it was going quicker, which I think I needed after a lecture, because I was reading that. I was just like, get me through it. But no, I'd recommend. My sister still hasn't read it, and I'm still yet to watch a TV show, Paul Mescal. But I haven't watched it. I honestly don't know, but I really enjoyed it. I did only give this a 4-star, because I think back then I was being a lot more stingy with my 5 stars. But it would definitely be a high 4-star. It was a good book, yeah. I'm still yet to read more by Sally Rooney. Conversation with Friends is supposed to be good. And she just released Intermezzo, whatever it's called. But I'm waiting for it to come out on softback, because I don't like hardback. Good book though. The next book I read was Enigma Variations by Andre Ackerman again. And this pretty sure I bought in a charity shop, my mum's charity shop. I was lucky I found it, and it was brand new. And I liked it. It was a story of a man's life from when he was young, like his first crush, up until he's old. I did get annoyed with him a couple times, like going after a person, he'd be like, I'm madly in love with them, and then the second he gets them, he's like, bored of them now. All about the chase, which annoys me. I'm like, have them. But it was a really good book. This one I only gave 3 stars, which looking back, I don't know if it's justified or not, like, because I really enjoyed it. But then there was some, because he falls in love, I don't know how many times. Oh, it was this book. Yeah, there was some moments I was bored of. Not bored of, but I was just kind of like, get to the point. But it was a good book. It would definitely be a high 3 stars. And I do want to read more by Andre Ackerman. I think I'm buying 8 White Nights the second I can, because it's good. But yeah, 3 stars. Last book I read by Ackerman this year, I read 4 by him. 4 out of 16 out of my 16 books by one author. I'm proud of. Now, the next book I read. Book number 11. No words. I read Lie With Me by Philippe Besson, translated by Molly Ringwald. And now this book I picked up, I bought like 5 books at once and I picked them up, and it's only 150 pages. And I remember when it came, because I was like, oh, it's a bit short. And I was like, I didn't think I'd enjoy it, because I was like, oh, 150 pages, not even going to get to know the characters. But when I tell you this book killed me, like, I don't recommend it to my sister or my mate, because I know they're not going to appreciate it as much as I did, and it's going to kill me. I read on my breaks at work in my car, and let's just say this was not the book for that. This is a book I'd recommend sitting in bed all day and reading. I just got a line. I honestly have no words for this book. It killed me. It literally, the definition, like, broken heart. I went back into work after finishing it, and I was in pain. I was like speechless. This book, if you ever listen to a book review or recommendation, whatever, read this book. I give this one 6 stars. On my Goodreads I could only give it 5. But oh my god, this book. What's it about? Basically, this author, he goes to a hotel and sees a guy who he fell in love with when he was younger. But the guy he saw was what he looked like when he was younger. Turns out it was the guy's son. And then he talks to the guy and was kind of retelling of how he fell in love with the guy's father and how they stopped and what happened. And honestly, absolutely heartbreaking. Read this book. And this was a book that made me go to Paris, because I wanted to pick up it in French. I can't read French, but it's originally in French, and I just kind of wanted the original version in my possession. Philippe, je vais partir en Espagne et je ne vais pas revenir, et tu car pas tout de suite. Whatever that means, I can tell you what that means. Philippe, I'm going to Spain and I'm not coming back, at least not right away. Ah, the letter at the end. read this book. The next book I read, book number 12, was Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Going from this book, it was much needed. I finished that book and I was like to my sister, I need something cheesy. So I picked up the Pumpkin Spice Cafe series. Look at that font, huge, love it. It is 160, yeah, 155 pages, and it is a very chill, cozy autumn book. This girl moves to a small town, opens a pumpkin spice cafe shop, well, takes over it, and she falls in love. Who doesn't want that? Cheesy, right? Loved it. I did give it 3 stars because I loved the book, however, it's good for the moment, if you know what I mean. Like, I was in autumn. I was in salt air, the rust on the door, so I picked up this book, and yeah, I was happy with it. It was a good book. And then to follow with the tradition, book number 13, I went straight onto Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which is the second book in the story. And this one was a lot more spicy than the first one. I remember the first one, I was like, wow. Because my sister reads all these like romance books. So I was like, when I picked it up, I was like, okay, let's see how it is. They were like, they kissed. It was like last pages, it got a bit steamy. This one was a lot more steamy, a lot more detail. But yeah, it was a good book. It was another autumnal salt air Rossendor book. And yeah, it was the series I enjoy. Book number 1 and 2. I gave it 3 stars as well because I might read again, might not. I don't know if I'll read again, maybe next year, we'll see. My TBR for next year is quite big, so we'll see. The next book I read, book number 14, was Flawless by Elsie Silver. Now this one was a lot more steamy. It wasn't as steamy as I was expecting, but yeah, it was a good book. It's about a girl, no, it's about a guy who's a bull rider, and his agent daughter kind of went around with him to babysit him because he was a bit of a bad boy. Yeah, and then obviously they fall in love, they shag, and yeah, it was a steamy book. I've got all that series, the World series, and then Off to the Races, because my sister was like, read them all. But then I read the first one and I was like, I don't think I was in the mood for. I finished it and I was like, I want something. With the next book, I got that. But yeah, I gave 3 stars. It's the same as the pumpkin ones. I was like, I did like how it switched perspectives. Like one chapter would be her, one chapter would be him. Some people don't like that, but I like it. It gives you different things. But yeah, it was a good book. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I was about to say 10 out of 10, but 3 out of 5. Now, the next book I read was my 15th book for the year. For the July to December, I set my goal for 15 books. I made it to 16, so I was quite proud of myself. For my 15th book, I read Fourth Wing. Oh my god. Look at them pages. Oh, I'm not going to miss that. Because when I finished that, as I was saying, I wanted more. I wanted fantasy. I was craving dragons, royalty. I know there's no royalty in there. Not really. But there's a hierarchy, kind of. But yeah, great book. Great if you're trying to get into fantasy. Highly recommend this book to get you in. Or even if you haven't read it yet, read it. And I have a funny story for this book. I'm going to skip to this time if you haven't read the book to avoid spoilers. Basically. And this, you better skip because this is a big spoiler. The spoiler of the whole book. So skip to this time and yeah, 3, 2. Basically, at the end, me having a one-on-one, where he read, when that definitely wasn't an accident, little sister. I read that in the perspective of, what's his name? So I literally only just read this book. Xaden. I read that in the perspective of Xaden's, and my sister told me, don't read the last page. It's a big spot, because I gotta admit, I'm the type of person to read the last page of a book. And she was like, whatever you do, do not do it with this book. And I actually listened to her, and I'm glad I did. But basically, so I knew there was a big plot twist coming. And when I read that, that definitely wasn't an accident, little sister. In my head, coming from Xaden, I was like, I have not read this whole book for the ending to be that they were siblings and it was all incest. And then I obviously reread it, and I was like, oh, okay, I get that it's thingy. But I had to FaceTime my sister, and she was like, oh, what did you think of the spoiler that he's alive? And I was like, well, after I realised it wasn't an incest, it was kind of a because I was like, whoa. And then when we realised what it actually was, I was like, oh, okay, that's better. Great book. I highly recommend. I gave it 5 stars, and it deserves it. The final book I read, which was my 16th book, Brain Fart, I finished it Monday. It's now Wednesday. I think it was now Wednesday. My book, my 16th out of 16. I don't know why I'm building it up so much. It was Christmas Tree Farm by Laura Gilmore, the 3rd book of the Pumpkin Spice series. And this was a good book. It is perfect for Christmas time. It is cozy, it is romance, and it is cute. It's an easy read. It's like 340 pages. It doesn't look like a lot, but you fly through it because the pages, the writing's quite big, or normal. Going from Fourth Wing to this, I was like, oh, gorgeous. But I gave 3 stars as the rest of them because same reasoning. And yeah, good book. I'd recommend it over Christmas time. That was all 16 books I read this year. It was my first year of reading, and I was really proud of myself that I managed to get to my goal of 15. Let alone read an extra one, because I never work harder than I need to. I do what I need to. If I hit 15, then I finish. But I was proud of myself. I probably could have read another one, but I was like, I've got ACOTAR to read next year, because in my fantasy era, I'm gonna read. I still have the 2nd one of Fourth Wing to read. I've got ACOTAR. I've got many books to read. Because I've only read 16, and I've got 3 shelves of books. But I've set my goal for the next year to read 50 books. And I know you're thinking, Ryan, you only read 16 books in 6 months. However, I've gotten to the point where if I'm not enjoying a book, I'm not going to read it. DNFs. I had 2 DNFs, a little from the vault. The first one I had was no fault of the author. I bought The Power of Now. I was having a breakdown in life. This book basically is just about living in the moment. And it's because I was like, oh, I need something to help me. However, I don't have the brains for it. I was just reading it and nothing was going in, so I wasn't enjoying it. Make it into a meditation. It needn't. See, it used words like that. And it was just way too brainy for me. So I gave up, sadly. But I might revisit it. It's only like 200 pages. I read like 50 of it, and I was like, no. The next book I DNF'd. And this one I DNF'd it before I started it. I read like the first page, and then I Googled something, and I was like, no. It was Orphea and Eurydice. Now this book, I bought it, and I was so disappointed, because this was a book where I was like, I need to start reading into it. I need Google before I read. Basically, I wanted to read it because it's about Orpheus, and however the author switched the gender, and I'm sure had a reason for it, and I'm sure it's a good book. There's good reviews on it. However, it just I picked it up and I was annoyed because I was like, just keep it how I want it. So I didn't read it. But I literally, if you look at the spine, it's not even broken. I read the first 2 pages, if that, and I was like, no. And that was after Electra as well. So I was like, no more Greek mythology for a little bit. But yeah, as I was saying anyway, next year I've set my goal for 50 books, which seems like a lot considering I only read 16 books this month. I wish. This year, I read 16 books in 6 months. However, where I got stuck on a book for a month, next year I'm going to be a lot more. If I finish a book in a week, and if it's getting to like the 2-week mark, I'm going to soft DNF. Oh, I got another soft DNF. Now this one was upsetting. It was A Little Life, and I know you guys are going to be screaming. I read 100 pages. Then I got to like page 110. This book's like 700 pages. I read 100, and I was really enjoying it. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I enjoyed the characters in the storyline, but it felt like the whole 100 pages, nothing happened. It was like, set up the characters and get to know them, so on and so forth. I was like, it's a group of 4 people, and it was just did enjoy the characters though, and I did enjoy the storyline. However, I was just like, I had it for like a month, I hadn't touched it, and I was like, I'm not going to read the 700 pages, I'm not going to get through it. so I put it down. But it's definitely a soft DNF. I will go back and revisit this and read it, hopefully. Yeah, I just had a coughing fit. But yeah, I got to like the 50th time. But yeah, next book. Yeah, I'm reading 50 books in the year, hopefully, which works out about a book a week, which I have been doing at the moment. Apart from Fourth Wing, which took me 2 weeks because it's the thickness of 2 books. And then, obviously, I've had like reading slump stuff. But yeah, that's and I'm going to try really hard. I've got lots of books I want to read. So I just got to get better at reading them. That's the whole point, isn't it? Just read them. I'm going to read ACOTAR. And you read Circe yet? Because I heard so many great things about it. And I didn't buy it for the longest time because I didn't like how it was printed. I know, sue me. But I finally hit the bullet and also just get it. I think I got it in my mum's charity shop again. Another great find. Yeah, so I want to read Circe, ACOTAR, Iron Flame, maybe some more Elsie Silver. And then I've got a lot more gay romances I want to read, but I'm in a fragile mind, okay? So we'll see. Thanks for watching my review. Comment below your top book of the year. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.